Every year, 30 MLB teams spend millions of dollars on a single player in the draft, convinced they've found the next superstar. Since 2010, we've watched 15 first overall picks either become legends, complete busts, or something weirdly in between. Some won MVPs and World Series rings. Others never even made it to the majors, and a few became solid players who married Olympic stars. The thing is, teams keep changing their draft strategy every single year, chasing the perfect formula, only to watch it blow up in their faces anyway. 2010, Bryce Harper. In 2010, the Washington Nationals picked a 17-year-old kid who had already gotten his GED just to speedrun his way to professional baseball. Bryce Harper dropped out of high school during his junior year and enrolled at the College of Southern Nevada to make himself draft eligible a year early. Most teenagers are worried about prom dates and driver's licenses. Harper was worried about getting to the major leagues as fast as humanly possible. Harper was being called the next Mickey Mantle before he could legally vote. Scouts were comparing him to Ted Williams and saying he had the best combination of power and plate discipline they had ever seen in a high school player. Baseball America put him on their cover when he was 16 years old. The hype around this kid was absolutely insane, and everyone knew the Nationals were going to take him with the first pick. The pressure on a teenager to live up to generational talent expectations seemed impossible. The Nationals were one of baseball's worst franchises at the time, having never won a playoff series since moving to Washington. They desperately needed someone to give their fan base hope and sell tickets at the same time. Harper dominated junior college baseball and won the Golden Spikes Award as the best amateur player in the country. He made his MLB debut at 19 years old in April 2012, immediately becoming the face of a franchise that had never had a real superstar. His rookie year earned him Rookie of the Year honors after hitting 22 home runs and stealing 18 bases. By 2015, Harper won the NL MVP award at age 22, hitting 42 home runs with a 1.109 OPS. The thing is, Harper exceeded expectations and made the Nationals relevant for the first time in their existence. His success set the bar impossibly high for every first overall pick that followed. 2011, Gerrit Cole. The Pittsburgh Pirates thought they had found their ace of the future in Gerrit Cole, and they were absolutely right. They just forgot to mention he'd be someone else's ace. Cole arrived with elite college credentials from UCLA and the kind of fastball that made scouts drool. He represented everything the Pirates needed to climb out of their perpetual rebuild. His four-seam fastball sat in the mid-90s with excellent movement, and his slider had the sharp break that gets hitters to swing and miss. Pittsburgh had been terrible for years, and Cole looked like the cornerstone pitcher who could anchor their rotation for a decade. Pittsburgh developed Cole into a solid, dependable starter over 4 seasons, but he never quite reached the elite level that his stuff suggested he could achieve. He posted a 3.50 ERA across his time with the Pirates and made one All-Star team in 2015. Cole showed flashes of dominance, striking out over 200 batters twice, but something seemed to be holding him back from true ace status. His walk rates were higher than expected, and he struggled with consistency from start to start. The moment he left Pittsburgh and joined the Houston Astros in 2018, Cole transformed into a completely different pitcher. He posted a 2.50 ERA with Houston and struck out over 300 batters in 2019. His fastball velocity jumped, his slider became unhittable, and he developed into one of the most dominant starters in baseball. Cole is now making $36 million a year with the Yankees, while the Pirates are still stuck in their endless rebuilding cycle. They watch their former first overall pick dominate on national television every October, while they miss the playoffs year after year. 2012, Carlos Correa. The Houston Astros were in the middle of one of the most shameless tank jobs in baseball history when they selected Carlos Correa, and somehow this disaster of a franchise managed to nail the pick perfectly. Houston was coming off a 107-loss season in 2011 and desperately needed talent at every position. They had traded away most of their veteran players and were completely committed to losing games to get better draft picks. Correa's selection was both obvious and crucial for their long-term plans. Drafting a high school shortstop with the first pick is always risky, and the Astros couldn't afford another bust during their systematic teardown and rebuild. High school players take longer to develop and have higher bust rates than college players. But Correa had the kind of tools that made scouts drool. He could hit for power, had excellent speed, and showed the defensive ability to stick at shortstop long-term. Correa developed quickly through the minors and made his MLB debut in 2015, immediately showing the kind of two-way ability that justifies a first overall selection. He hit 20 home runs as a rookie and won the American League Rookie of the Year award. Correa became a cornerstone of the Astros infield, earning All-Star selections and a Gold Glove while helping lead the team to their first World Series championship in 2017. The weird part is what happened next. Instead of signing a massive long-term deal with Houston, Correa has bounced between teams on short-term contracts. He signed with the Twins, then the Giants, then ended up with the Twins again. Despite his obvious talent, he never quite settled down with one organization. Correa proved that even tanking teams can hit home runs with the first pick. 2013, Mark Appel. After nailing the Correa pick, the Houston Astros had a chance to build on their success with another first overall selection, and they proceeded to whiff completely on Mark Appel. Appel was supposed to be the safe pick, a polished college pitcher from Stanford with a track record of success and the kind of profile that screams sure thing to scouts. He had dominated Pac-12 hitters for 3 years and possessed a four-seam fastball that sat in the mid-90s with good command. Appel also threw a sharp slider and had developed a changeup that kept hitters off balance. His college statistics were excellent, and he came from one of the most respected baseball programs in the country. Despite his college dominance and seemingly low-risk profile, Appel struggled with command issues and injuries from the moment he entered professional baseball. His fastball velocity dropped from the mid-90s to the low 90s almost immediately. His secondary pitches didn't develop as expected, and he couldn't find the strike zone consistently enough to advance through the minor league system. Professional hitters quickly figured out his stuff wasn't as overpowering as it had appeared in college. After years of struggling in the minors and briefly retiring, Appel finally made his major league debut with the Philadelphia Phillies in June 2022, though he appeared in only 4 games. The Astros eventually gave up on their former first overall pick and traded him to the Philadelphia Phillies for reliever Ken Giles, essentially admitting their mistake. The trade happened in December 2015, just 2.5 years after they drafted him. Appel bounced around different organizations for years, briefly made the majors in 2022 with 4 appearances for the Phillies, and eventually stepped away from baseball without ever establishing himself as a regular big leaguer. The Appel disaster became a legendary cautionary tale about how even the safest college arms can completely flame out in professional baseball. This pick reminded everyone that there's no such thing as a sure thing in the draft. 2014, Brady Aiken. The 2014 draft produced one of the most bizarre first overall pick stories in baseball history, and it all started with a medical exam that went horribly wrong. Brady Aiken was a high school left-hander with elite stuff and the kind of projectability that made him an obvious choice for the Houston Astros with the top pick. He threw a fastball that sat in the mid-90s and had a curveball that dropped off the table. Aiken was 6'4" and still growing, which meant his velocity could increase even more as he filled out his frame. The Astros had already agreed to terms on a contract worth about $6.5 million. During his pre-signing physical, the Astros discovered something in Aiken's elbow that concerned their medical staff enough to reduce their contract offer significantly. The team's doctors found what they believed was a problematic UCL in his throwing arm. Houston dropped their offer to around $5 million, a massive reduction that would also affect their remaining draft pool money. Aiken and his representatives refused the reduced offer, leading to a standoff that ultimately resulted in the first overall pick going unsigned for the first time in decades. The deadline passed without a deal, and the Astros lost their top pick entirely. The situation spawned conspiracy theories about whether the medical concerns were real or if the Astros were trying to manipulate the system for financial reasons. Some people believed Houston was using the medical exam as an excuse to save money and spend more on later picks. Aiken eventually signed with other organizations but never developed into the pitcher scouts thought he could become, dealing with the very arm issues that concerned Houston's doctors. The Aiken saga became a cautionary tale about medical evaluations and high-stakes draft negotiations. 2015, Dansby Swanson. The Arizona Diamondbacks selected Dansby Swanson with the first overall pick and then immediately traded him away, which turned out to be a perfect summary of his career. Solid, but never quite spectacular. Swanson was a Vanderbilt superstar with the kind of college resume that suggested he'd be a reliable, if not flashy, major league contributor. He hit .335 with 16 home runs in his final college season and helped lead the Commodores to the College World Series. Swanson had good speed, decent power, and the defensive skills to play shortstop at the major league level. His college track record suggested he would translate well to professional baseball without much development time needed. Arizona traded him to Atlanta as part of a package deal for pitcher Shelby Miller before he ever played a game in their system, making fans wonder if they gave up on him too quickly. The trade happened in December 2015, just 5 months after the Diamondbacks drafted him. Arizona essentially used their first overall pick as a trade chip rather than developing him themselves. Swanson settled into the Braves lineup as their everyday shortstop and became exactly what you'd expect from a steady college pick: dependable defense and decent offense. He has averaged around 20 home runs per season and plays solid defense at shortstop. Swanson contributed to Atlanta's 2021 World Series championship and has been a consistent presence in their infield, even if he never developed into a superstar-level player. The most notable thing about Swanson's career might be his marriage to USWNT soccer player Mallory Swanson, formerly Mallory Pugh, which probably gets mentioned more than his baseball statistics. Swanson represents the middle ground of first overall picks. Not a bust, not a superstar, just a solid major league player who does his job well. 2016, Moniak. The Philadelphia Phillies had the first overall pick and a chance to select some incredible talent. So naturally, they reached for a high school outfielder who became a fourth outfielder. Moniak had all the tools scouts love in a high school prospect: speed, arm strength, and the kind of athleticism that projects well for professional development. He was a center fielder from La Costa Canyon High School in California, who ran a 6.2 60-yard dash and had plus arm strength. Moniak hit .476 in his senior year and showed the kind of raw ability that made scouts believe he could develop into a five-tool player at the major league level. The problem was that several college players available in that draft looked like safer bets, but the Phillies decided to swing for the fences with upside instead. College players like A.J. Puck and Jason Groom were considered more polished options who could reach the majors faster. Moniak struggled to develop his hitting at the professional level, never quite figuring out how to make consistent contact against advanced pitching. His swing mechanics needed major adjustments, and he had trouble recognizing breaking balls from professional pitchers. He bounced between the minors and majors for years, showing flashes of the athleticism that got him drafted, but never putting together the complete package needed for everyday play. The Phillies eventually traded him to the Angels in 2022, where he carved out a role as a bench player and defensive replacement rather than the franchise cornerstone they envisioned. Moniak's career became a reminder that high school picks are inherently risky, even when the athlete has all the physical tools to succeed. This pick haunts Phillies fans because they passed on several players who became stars. 2017, Royce Lewis. The Minnesota Twins selected Royce Lewis as a toolsy shortstop with incredible potential, but his career has been defined more by what he's done in hospital beds than batter's boxes. Lewis had everything scouts wanted: speed, power, defensive ability, and the kind of baseball instincts that suggested he'd be a perennial all-star at the major league level. He could run a 6.4 60-yard dash, had plus arm strength across the diamond, and showed natural hitting ability from both sides of the plate. Lewis also displayed advanced baseball IQ and the kind of leadership qualities that teams love in their top prospects. From the moment he reached the upper levels of the minors, Lewis has been plagued by injuries that have kept him off the field for extended periods. He tore his ACL twice in his right knee, first in 2021 and then again in 2023. Lewis also dealt with various other ailments, including oblique strains and quad injuries that prevented him from staying on the field consistently. When he's healthy and playing, Lewis shows exactly why the Twins drafted him first overall, displaying the kind of dynamic ability that can change games. His 2022 debut included several clutch hits and showed flashes of the five-tool potential that made him so appealing as a draft pick. The problem is that he's spent more time on the injured list than in the starting lineup, dealing with various ailments that have prevented him from establishing any kind of rhythm. His career has become a cruel example of how talent means nothing if you can't stay on the field long enough to develop and contribute consistently. Lewis represents the most frustrating type of first overall pick, the player who clearly has the ability but can't overcome the physical demands of professional baseball. 2018, Casey Mize. The Detroit Tigers thought they were getting a safe, polished college arm when they selected Casey Mize. But safe picks in baseball have a way of being anything but safe. Mize came from Auburn with a track record of college success and the kind of repertoire that suggested he'd be a frontline starter in the major leagues within a few years. He threw a four-seam fastball that sat in the mid-90s with excellent command and location. His slider was sharp and broke late, making it difficult for college hitters to square up. Mize also developed a splitter that became his signature pitch, diving down and away from right-handed batters. His college numbers were excellent, posting a 2.95 ERA in his final season at Auburn. The Tigers desperately needed pitching help and couldn't afford to miss on another high draft pick, making Mize's development crucial for their rebuilding timeline. Detroit had been rebuilding for years and needed someone who could anchor their rotation moving forward. Mize has shown flashes of the ability that made him the first overall pick, but he hasn't quite lived up to the expectations that come with that selection. His major league career has been marked by inconsistency and injuries, preventing him from establishing himself as the ace-level pitcher Detroit thought they were getting. He has dealt with shoulder and elbow issues that have limited his innings and effectiveness when he does pitch. The Tigers are still waiting for Mize to put together a full season of elite performance, testing the patience of fans who have endured years of rebuilding. Mize's career illustrates how even college pitchers with proven track records can struggle to translate their success to the major league level. This pick has taught Tigers fans that development timelines are often longer than anyone expects. 2019, Adley Rutschman. The Baltimore Orioles finally got their first overall pick right with Adley Rutschman, though they took their sweet time getting him to the major leagues. Rutschman was considered one of the most polished college players ever drafted, with the kind of catching and hitting ability that suggested immediate impact potential. He came from Oregon State with a track record of elite performance on both sides of the ball. Rutschman hit .411 with 17 home runs in his final college season, while also showing excellent defensive skills behind the plate. His swing was smooth and consistent, and he had the kind of plate discipline that translates well to professional baseball. Despite his obvious readiness, the Orioles kept him in the minors longer than most expected, leading to questions about their development timeline and promotion strategy. Rutschman dominated AAA pitching and seemed ready for the major leagues months before Baltimore finally called him up in May 2022. When Rutschman finally reached the majors in 2022, he immediately validated his draft position by becoming one of the best catchers in baseball almost instantly. He hit 254s with 13 home runs as a rookie while providing excellent defense and game-calling skills. Rutschman earned All-Star consideration and won a Silver Slugger award, proving that sometimes the wait is worth it when the player lives up to their potential. Rutschman has become the cornerstone of Baltimore's surprising resurgence, providing both offensive production and defensive leadership behind the plate. His presence helped transform the Orioles from one of the worst teams in baseball to a playoff contender. This pick represents what happens when everything goes right: the right player, proper development, and organizational patience coming together perfectly. Rutschman's success has given the Orioles their first legitimate franchise player in years. 2020, Spencer Torkelson. The Detroit Tigers doubled down on their rebuilding strategy by selecting Spencer Torkelson, a college slugger whose transition to major league pitching has been more puzzling than powerful. Torkelson dominated college baseball at Arizona State with the kind of power numbers that made him an obvious choice for a team desperate for offensive production. He hit .340 with 25 home runs and 75 RBIs in his final college season. His swing was smooth and generated massive power to all fields. Torkelson also showed excellent plate discipline, walking more than he struck out during his time with the Sun Devils. His college statistics suggested he would be a middle-of-the-order bat who could provide immediate offensive help. The Tigers needed immediate help and couldn't afford another development project, making Torkelson's adjustment to professional baseball crucial for their timeline. Detroit had been rebuilding for years and desperately needed someone who could anchor their lineup and provide consistent offensive production. His rookie season was a struggle as he dealt with the reality that major league pitching is significantly more challenging than anything he faced in college. Torkelson hit .203 with 8 home runs in his first season, striking out 144 times in 110 games. Professional pitchers attacked him with breaking balls and located fastballs in ways that college pitchers couldn't. Torkelson has shown flashes of the power that got him drafted first overall, but consistency has been elusive as he continues to adjust to advanced pitching strategies. Tigers fans are experiencing déjà vu watching another highly touted prospect struggle with the transition from college success to major league production. Torkelson's early career highlights the ongoing challenge of projecting college offensive success to the major league level, even for first overall picks. This pick serves as a reminder that power prospects often need more time to develop than teams and fans are willing to give them. 2021, Henry Davis. The Pittsburgh Pirates selected Henry Davis as a catcher with the first overall pick, and he's now playing everywhere except behind the plate, which pretty much sums up modern draft strategy. Davis was chosen partly for his catching ability and partly because the Pirates could sign him for slot money, representing the new era of budget-conscious first overall selections. He came from Louisville with solid offensive numbers and decent defensive skills behind the plate. The Pirates knew they could sign him for the full slot amount of $8.5 million without going over budget. This allowed them to save money for later picks in the draft while still getting a player with first-round talent. The Pirates needed to balance talent acquisition with financial flexibility, making Davis an attractive option even if he wasn't the consensus best player available. Other players like Marcelo Mayer and Jordan Walker were considered by many scouts to have higher ceilings, but they would have cost more money to sign. Davis has transitioned away from catching to playing outfield and first base, showing the kind of positional versatility that modern teams value over traditional roles. His catching skills were always considered his weakest tool, and the Pirates quickly moved him to positions where his bat could play better. Davis spent time in left field and at first base during his minor league development. His development has been steady, if unspectacular, representing the Pirates' approach of finding value and flexibility rather than swinging for superstar potential. The position changes illustrate how teams now view draft picks as portfolio investments rather than players locked into specific roles for their entire careers. Davis represents the modern draft philosophy, where slot money savings and positional flexibility matter as much as raw talent and traditional scouting metrics. 2022, Jackson Holliday. The Baltimore Orioles selected Jackson Holliday, son of former All-Star Matt Holliday, creating the ultimate test of whether baseball talent actually runs in families. Holliday arrived with enormous expectations based both on his own high school performance and the inevitable comparisons to his father's successful major league career. Matt Holliday was a 7-time All-Star who hit over 300 career home runs and made millions of dollars during his playing days. Jackson hit .685 as a high school senior in Oklahoma and showed the same smooth left-handed swing that made his father famous. Being a baseball nepo baby comes with unique pressure. Fans and scouts constantly debate whether success comes from genetics, training, or just good coaching from birth. Jackson grew up around major league clubhouses and had access to the best hitting coaches and training facilities money could buy. He learned the game from professional players and coaches who worked with his father throughout his career. Holliday has progressed rapidly through the minor leagues, showing the kind of hitting ability and baseball instincts that suggest the family genes are legitimate. He hit .321 with 19 home runs across multiple minor league levels in 2023. His swing mechanics look remarkably similar to his father's, with the same smooth stroke and natural timing that made Matt successful. His 2024 Major League debut featured the typical growing pains of a young player adjusting to the highest level, but flashes of his potential were clearly visible. The Holliday name carries weight in baseball circles, but Jackson has had to prove that his talent is his own rather than just inherited reputation. This pick represents the ongoing debate about pedigree versus performance in baseball. 2023, Paul Skenes. The Pittsburgh Pirates finally got something right when they selected Paul Skenes, a flame-throwing pitcher who made the All-Star team as a rookie and reminded everyone why first overall picks used to be exciting. Skenes arrived with a fastball that touched triple digits and the kind of immediate dominance that suggested he might skip the typical development timeline entirely. He transferred from Air Force to LSU and dominated college baseball with a four-seam fastball that regularly hit 100 miles per hour. His slider was equally impressive, breaking sharply and generating swings and misses at an elite rate. Skenes also threw a knuckleball that confused hitters who were already struggling with his velocity. The Pirates desperately needed a success story after years of questionable draft picks and player development failures, making Skenes' transition crucial for organizational credibility. Pittsburgh had become a laughingstock for their inability to develop talent and compete at the major league level. Skenes jumped to the major leagues with alarming ease, establishing himself as one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball almost immediately after his debut. He made his first major league start in May 2024 and immediately showed the stuff that made him the top pick. His fastball averaged 99 miles per hour in his debut, and hitters couldn't catch up to his velocity. His rookie All-Star selection represented the fastest ascent from draft pick to elite major league performer in recent memory, validating the Pirates' selection completely. Skenes became the rare first overall pick who exceeded expectations from day one, proving that sometimes the draft process actually identifies the right player at the right time. Skenes represents what fans hope for every year when their team makes the first pick: immediate impact, elite performance, and franchise-changing talent. 2024, Travis Bazzana. The Cleveland Guardians made history by selecting Travis Bazzana as the first Australian ever chosen first overall, proving that baseball's talent search has truly gone global. Bazzana's selection represented a milestone for international baseball development and Cleveland's willingness to think outside traditional scouting boundaries. He grew up playing baseball in Australia, where the sport is far less popular than cricket or rugby. Australian baseball leagues are much smaller and less competitive than American high school and college programs. The fact that Cleveland was willing to use their top pick on a player from such a different baseball environment showed how much the game has expanded internationally. Drafting an international player first overall always carries extra risk because the competition level and development path are different from traditional American prospects. Bazzana played college baseball at Oregon State, where he hit .407 with 28 home runs in his final season. His numbers were impressive, but scouts had to evaluate whether his success came against the same level of pitching that American prospects faced regularly. Bazzana signed for $8.95 million and brought impressive college numbers from Oregon State, but questions remained about how his skills would translate professionally. He was a switch hitter with good power from both sides of the plate and showed excellent plate discipline throughout his college career. His early minor league performance has been encouraging, suggesting that Cleveland's international gamble might pay off as he progresses through their system. The pick highlights baseball's expanding global reach and the increasing importance of international talent in major league organizations' long-term planning. Bazzana's selection represents the evolution of baseball scouting from a primarily American focus to a truly international talent search. 2025, Eli Willits. The Washington Nationals shocked the baseball world by selecting Eli Willits with the first overall pick, a non-consensus choice made by an interim general manager that perfectly captures the modern draft's unpredictability. Willits wasn't the consensus choice for first overall, with many expecting the Nationals to take Ethan Holliday or LSU pitcher Cade Anderson instead. The surprise pick represented the kind of organizational conviction that comes when a team believes they've identified unique value others have missed. He was a high school player from Fort Cobb Broxton High School in Oklahoma, with good tools, but nothing about his profile screamed first overall pick material. The Nationals essentially reached for a player they could have probably gotten with a later selection. Having an interim GM make such a crucial decision added another layer of uncertainty to a pick that already seemed to prioritize tools and potential over proven performance. Mike Rizzo had been fired earlier in the year, leaving the organization organization without permanent leadership during one of the most important decisions they would make. An interim executive was essentially gambling with the franchise's future on a player who hadn't dominated college baseball the way previous first picks had. The selection emphasized positional versatility since Willits projects to potentially move from shortstop to second base, fitting the modern preference for flexible players over position specialists. Teams now value players who can handle multiple positions rather than elite defenders at one spot. This pick embodied all the running themes of recent drafts: slot money considerations, organizational overthinking, and the belief that teams can outsmart conventional wisdom. Willits represents the ultimate example of how first overall picks have become as much about front office philosophy as player evaluation. This selection perfectly encapsulates the modern draft era where conventional wisdom gets thrown out the window in favor of organizational theories. After 15 years of first overall picks, the only consistent thing about the draft is its complete unpredictability. Teams keep changing strategies while the results remain as random as ever. The evolution from pure talent chasing to slot money savings and positional flexibility shows how front offices have overcomplicated what should be a simple decision about finding the best player. Sometimes the best player gets picked 197th overall, while the first pick ends up selling insurance by age 27, proving that baseball's draft remains equal parts science, luck, and prayer. Teams will keep overthinking these picks forever. If you like our video, like and subscribe for 1,000 years of luck.